What's up, tribe? How you guys doing? Go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and I hope you like this video. This is Bel Air Season 1, Episode 5. So, excuse me. Trey is in town, right? We opened up this episode with Will picking Trey up from the airport, and of course, they happy to see each other. Trey is impressed, and they riding in the nice Lexus with the voice, navigation and all that good stuff. They get to the house, and of course, Trey is like, is this like an art museum or is this like a real spot, And they happen to see each other. They run into Carlton, and Trey tries to make like a little smart comment about Carlton. Tomorrow, I can't believe he's really into lacrosse, and Will actually defends him. So I'm like, okay, Will and Carlton really have this little truce going on, or is it a situation where it's like he my cousin and I can talk about him but you can't, you know what I mean? But he sort of defends him a little bit. While this is going on, we see Hillary is packing up the pool house. She's with her dad, and we find out that she's going to be hosting a dinner for her new housemates. I think we talked about that last episode, that she actually did get into an influencer house. And so she's with her new housemates. She's hosting a dinner for her new housemates, and Dad is telling her, listen, Uncle Phil is like, listen, if you want some advice or you have some questions, why don't you reach out to your mom? She used to do this kind of stuff all the time, because again, the two of them just keep butting heads, and he's trying to get them to talk. And she said, no offense, Dad, but the vibe I'm going for with my dinner party is probably not the vibe that, Mom does. She's more of a white wine kind of girl, not my thing. And he was like, listen, I really wish y'all would get on the same page. I think y'all are more alike than you are different, yada, yada, yada. Well, we definitely see that she is a daddy's girl, and there's love there. And from one daddy's girl to the next to another, I get it. We see Trey, talking to Aunt Viv. He bought her some cookies, which I guess is for Spot in Philly, because she was so excited to get them. And a couple of comments were made about, Trey made a comment about Phil coming back. About Will coming back home. Now that now that Rashid is dead, Will can come home. It's no big deal. We find out that Trey still hasn't really been going back to the park. He's still, even though Rashad is dead, he still hasn't really been hanging out. But he's definitely excited and looking forward to Will coming back home. Trey said something about that in front of Aunt Viv, and Aunt Viv was kind of like, well, we'll see, but you could tell she ain't really happy or enthusiastic about Will going back home. We see later on Aunt Viv talking to her sister / Will's mom about it, and she's like, Will's mom is like, listen, Will's coming back home. I'm his mother, and I know what's best. And Aunt Viv was like, listen, we have, Will has really settled in. He's made some friends. He went to the Alpha event, and a lot of Phil's, frat brothers were impressed by him, and they talking about giving him some, scholarship. Not scholarships, internships and things like that. And Will's mom is like, listen, you don't have to convince me my son is talented. Like, I know. Scouts have been calling me since he was in the 9th grade. And she was like, I'm talking about the world beyond sports. Like, I'm talking about, politics and arts, and there's just a lot of opportunities. And she finally had to, she nice nasty, put Aunt Viv in her place, and basically was like, listen, he my son, and I, he not grown yet, and I will make the decisions for him. And if I decide that he need to come home, then he coming home. Then we see Uncle Phil meeting with his campaign manager Steve, who is played by Dwayne Martin. And we find out that he is up in the polls. He's his poll numbers have gone up among black voters and among likely voters. And so he said, see, you didn't want me to, do the neighborhood outreach, but it's working. And Steve was like, well, I just want you to remember we are running a moderate, in the middle campaign. Like, don't get too excited about this outreach. We're gonna be doing all of that, Will and Trey come through, and they found out that they have VIP tickets to what's his name? I wrote it down so I wouldn't forget, y'all. D Smoke. And of course, they love D Smoke. They know all about D Smoke. D Smoke is the man, kind of thing. And Uncle Phil Trey makes a comment about getting shot. And Uncle Phil, and Steve was like, "Is this something I need to know?" Uncle Phil was like, "Nah, you good. Ain't nothing to see here. Basically nothing to see here." Then we see Trey and Will once again having a conversation up in Will's room, and once again the idea of him coming back to Philly comes up, and he's non-committal. He's not saying no, but you can definitely tell that he's not really committed to the idea. We see books laying around, and he's like, "What you doing? You don't read?" And Will's like, "Nah, that's The Alchemist. That's actually a really good book." Like, you can starting to see that Will is, even in the little bit of time he's been in LA, he's not the guy that Trey remembers. He's reading, and he's talking about, he joined the team, and of course, Trey wasn't happy to find out that he had joined Bel Air, and Will asked, "Well, how's the team back home?" And they've been struggling without him. They've been losing. And them going to the champion, the city championship is in jeopardy. So, of course, once again, Trey is like, "Well, when you come back, we'll be good to go. Like, there's enough season left that we can still make it happen." And again, Will just has this look on his face like, very non-committal. So, they're getting ready for Hillary's dinner party. It's going to be in the formal dining room. And so Will tries to get Trey to wear a suit, and Trey was like, "Yeah, nah, I'm not feeling that." He was like, "They really got you doing this whole bougie shit?" And Will was like, "What do you mean? Like, we, when in Rome, do as the Romans. Like, we're in the formal dining room. She wants us to dress up. Not a big deal." But Trey was like, "Yeah, I ain't with it. I ain't doing it, and I ain't with it." So we see Will he goes to talk to Hillary, and Hillary has the room set up. It's really nice. Everything's great. She's got hidden cameras because after all, these are social media influencers, and this is how they live their life. But the cameras are hidden, so it doesn't make everybody feel uncomfortable who may not be used to the cameras being around. And he asked her, he said, "So let me ask you a question." He was like, "Are the cameras on?" She said, "No, they're not on yet." He said, "Well, let me ask you a question." He said, "You think I should go back to Philly?" And she was like, "Why would you want to go back to Philly?" And he said, "I have my friends there. My mom is there. My team." And she said, "Listen, I get it and I understand. But at the end of the day, you have to do what you want to do. And honestly, staying here, I think, is the best option for you. But you have to stay true to yourself. And, ultimately, somebody's not going to be happy. But at the end of the day," and again, we know that she has chosen her own path. I'm sure it wasn't easy for her to drop out of college and tell her parents that she wasn't going back to Stanford. I'm sure that wasn't an easy decision. So she's speaking from experience. Like, I have chosen this path for myself. I have decided I'm going to move this way. So then we see Aunt Vi going to talk to Uncle Phil. She's a little apprehensive about this whole dinner party because, again, she doesn't get the whole social media thing. Like, this is just sort of beyond her, right? She doesn't really get it. We also saw her in her studio, and looked like she's got some sort of creative block. Only thing I am going to say is both times we saw her trying to paint or painting, she had on a white blouse. Is that what we doing? You just gonna paint in the white? Okay. So we find out the influencers that are coming through. So we have Kylo. Kylo is his house, is the head of the house, and he's a wine influencer. Fanta, she does luxury travel. She gets paid to travel the world, to go to the most expensive upscale luxury resorts and hotels and, do reviews on them and so forth. We have Monica. Monica goes by the pronouns of them and they, and they are a sex therapist, one of the biggest ones on the internet, and they have a book deal with Oprah. Then we have Jared and Nathan, and they are brothers known for pulling pranks. And so, we're meeting these people, and this is who Hillary this is a house she's going to be moving into, who she's going to be living with. So they all coming together. Dinner is great. Everybody's enjoying it. But Trey has been drinking. We saw Trey, pouring himself a drink from the good, the cancer, some brown liquor. We see him sipping on wine, and we can tell that he's getting drunk. He's getting inebriated. Now, has he always been somebody that's been a drinker? That I don't know. Did he start drinking because of the stress and because of getting shot and everything that's been going on? We don't have enough information to make that decision. But what I do feel like is that because this is a drama and not a sitcom, I don't think that's the last we're going to hear about Trey and a drinking problem. That's just my opinion. So the dinner's going nice. Uncle Phil gives a nice speech about being proud of Hillary and, how much he loves his daughter and everything. And Trey starts talking to Carlton. And Trey tells Carlton everything. Now he's drunk, but I don't think he didn't know not to say it. He assumed that Carlton knew what happened in Philly. He assumed that Carlton knew about the gun charges, about Uncle Phil getting the charges dropped, about Will's life being in danger. Now, I think Carlton knew part of it, but he definitely did not know the full extent of it, because he ends up later on that night, he ends up going to confront his dad about it. And his dad comes clean. Uncle Phil tells him the whole situation. This is what happened. This is why Will was here. And he was like, so basically you broke the law to save Will? And he said, listen, people make mistakes and people make bad decisions. If I had not stepped in to help Will, his whole life could be ruined. And he was like, so all that you try to tell me about living right and making good decisions, like that don't mean nothing. That's just bullshit. And he was like, no, but people do make mistakes. He said, I would think that after having your own struggles that you would understand. And Carlton was like, don't do that. Don't throw my anxiety disorder in my face as if it's the same. Like, it's not the same. And he was like, I'm not saying it's the same. All I'm saying is we all have our different struggles, and give him a break. He said, I need your word that you're not going to repeat this. Like, you can't tell anybody. And Carlton was like, you have my word. He said, because my word actually means something. Now, I ain't too convinced that Carlton ain't going to say nothing, but we're going to put a pin in that, okay? So, while we're at the dinner party, we find out that, we see Ashley having a conversation with Monica, about sexuality and the fluidity of sexual identity. We see Fanta talking to Aunt Viv about, all her travels, in which she said, I'm doing a series on my, channel of people who've been to these exotic places. Would you be interested in, being a part of my series? And, of course, Aunt Viv, again, not really understanding this whole social media thing, was like, no, I'm good. She said, I don't think I'd be good for it. She was like, no, you probably would. And then the guys pull a prank, which, of course, Aunt Viv was worried about them pulling a prank. They pulled out this covered tray, and it started moving. And they were like, oh my gosh, what's in there? It's supposed to be like dessert. And of course, Hillary starts freaking out because she's like, what in the world is it? They pull up the cover, and it's a dancing bear. And they were like, is that the prank? Is that the prank? And then here come one of the brothers. He comes streaking through the living room naked, talking about some, no, now that's the prank. And of course, it was all fun. I mean, it threw everybody off for a minute, but at the end of the day, we laughed about it, right? So, Will realizes that Trey is drunk, and he tries to get Trey to, go upstairs or drink some water or whatever. Eventually, the party is over. It was a success. The party was a success. And after Carlton talks to his daddy, Carlton goes to Will, and he lets Will know, listen, I know why you here. And at the end, Will tells him, like, listen, man, like, you can't tell nobody. Like, you can't tell nobody. He said, oh, don't worry about it. He was like, I'm not, he said, as long as you stay the hell out of my way here and at school and stay away from Lisa, we good. And so, of course, Will, it's like, I'm sure, Will is like, man, whatever. Now, also, we see at the party that Kylo actually is having some great conversations with Uncle Phil. And Uncle Phil, tells this story. He asked him, well, you can level with me. I'm sure you're disappointed. You're in politics and everything, and, you're this great lawyer. I'm sure you're disappointed that Hillary didn't decide to go to law school or something like that. And he tells this story about Hillary being born premature. And he was like, listen, at this, she was 6 months premature. All I prayed for was for her to be healthy. He said, and I still feel that's all I want. So whatever she chooses to do, as long as she's healthy and she's here, I'm happy. And he was like, damn, I wish you were my daddy. Like, what? So that, again, that was the dinner party. Everything went with the way it went. So the next morning, Uncle Phil is cooking breakfast, and everybody is there. Will and Trey are there, and they're having a good time. And they're actually going to go out later on to hang out. But Uncle Phil was like, "Don't forget, the concert. Don't forget, I got tickets for the concert." So they all hyped up about this VIP status for the D Smoke concert. So Carlton comes through, and they're like, "Carlton, are you going to the concert?" And Carlton was like, "No, I'm going to be with Lisa, helping her plan her mom's memorial." And so, of course, Aunt Vil was like, "You tell Lisa whatever she needs. We got her. Whatever whatever we can do to help." And Uncle Phil was like, "Well, Carlton, are you coming to the concert with us?" And he was like, "No, we're going to still, me and Lisa's still going to be working." And, of course, he keeps looking at Will, and Will keeps looking at him every time he brings up Lisa's name. So Trey and Will, actually, they run into Carlton and Lisa. And and Will tries to stay out of their way, but of course Trey is like, "Oh, you Lisa? Oh man, my boy Will talks about you. Hey, how you doing? I'm Trey, yada yada yada." But but Will is like, "We're gonna stay out your way." And you can tell that Carlton is so happy. Carlton is so elated to be having this alone time with Miss Lisa. They're doing a really good job of planning the event. They decide on a Mardi Gras theme. And Carlton was like, "Why do you want Mardi Gras for your mom?" And she said, "Well, my mom had family in New Orleans, and when she was in college, she would go visit them on holidays and stuff, and she just loved the city. She spoke about it all the time." And he was like, "Cool." She said, "Thank you, Carlton. I really, really appreciate the fact that you have my back. I appreciate the fact that you are here." And he said, "No problem. Whatever you need." And then, of course, he leans in for a kiss, and she was like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, my feelings haven't changed. Like, I appreciate the fact that we are friends, but that is it. That is all. There's no more to that story." And so, of course, Carlton feeling some kind of way because he thought he was in there. He thought he was making some headway. He thought he was getting his boo thing back. And it ain't go down like that. It wasn't going down like that. So then we see Aunt Vi. On the last episode, we found out that this art, I don't know if he's an art critic or he owns an art house, Reed Royce. She knows him. He's played by Michael Ealy. Now, I don't know how I like this Reed Royce because I feel like Reed Royce's interest in Aunt Vi is more than just her art. I think he's interested in her. And I don't know how I feel about that because I really love the black love story that they given us with Aunt Vi and Uncle Phil. I don't know how I feel about this whole, I don't know. I ain't feeling it, okay? But he's telling her how much he loves her art and how much, he's missed seeing her art. And she tells him that she's still trying to get back in the swing of things. And he tells her, "Well, show me what you got. Like, let me be the judge of whether," because she's like, "I don't think it's any good." And he was like, "Well, let me be the judge of it. I've always loved your art." And so then he shows her this blank wall in the gallery. And she was like, "What's that?" She said, "That's very minimalist, don't you think?" He said, "That's for you." And she was like, "Oh, no, I'm not ready for that. Like, I'm definitely not ready for my own wall, right?" But he just tells her, he said, "Listen, you will be, and that's where it's going to be because I have faith in you, yada, yada, yada." But like I said, he come off real creepy. Like, it's more to it. I don't know how I feel about it, y'all. I ain't feeling it. So we're at the Pop Smoke. Sorry. R.I.P. Not Pop Smoke. D Smoke. We're at the D Smoke concert, and of course they getting the VIP treatment. They pulling up, they skipping the line, they got their all access passes, and they are excited, which I would be too. I understand. And they don't think Uncle Phil knows who D Smoke is. Uncle Phil's like, "Listen, I am a hip hop head. I know exactly who he is. Okay, we here. I want to be here too." So they actually get to meet D Smoke, and of course Trey is at a loss for words, which is funny because, like Uncle Phil said, he was like, he never shuts up. So yeah. But it was a cool moment to see them meeting, D Smoke or what have you. So Uncle Phil gets a call. He says, "Listen, y'all go ahead and go to the seats. I gotta go take care of some business." So he actually got called away by Lisa's daddy, the chief of police, and a congressman or a councilman, I believe. And they basically told him, "Listen, we didn't appreciate your whole defund the police speech that you gave, so we're going to need you to walk it back a little bit and kind of hang out in the middle. or it's gonna be a problem. And Uncle Phil was like, well, listen, I didn't regret what I said. I feel the way I feel, and I'm not taking it back. And they were like, okay, well, there's gonna be some consequences, there's some repercussions, Smokey. And he was like, I mean, do what you gotta do, but I'm gonna go watch this good concert with my nephews, and do your best. You do your best. Now, while this is going on, Will and Trey, once again, Trey brings up Will coming back to Philly. And Will, says, well, I don't know, I've been thinking, I haven't made up my mind yet. And Trey was like, go ahead and say it. And Will was like, what you mean? He said, go ahead and say it. You've already made up your mind you're not coming back to Philly. But, stop playing with me and say it. And Will was like, I said I haven't made up my mind yet, but I have been thinking about it. There's some pros and some cons to me staying here. And he was like, you're a fucking liar. He was like, I know you, and I know that you've already made up your mind. And he was like, so it's cool for you to just leave me hanging. And Will was like, I'm not leaving you hanging, but, I got to do what's best for me. I got to make these decisions for me. And he was like, so it don't matter. You just going, you're just going to abandon West Philly. You don't, so what you bougie now. You just, you just rich boy now. And they end up having like an argument, and Trey stopped speaking to him at the concert. Now, he ain't lead the concert, He was going to sit there and get his good concert on. But later on that night, they're back at the house, and they get into a really nasty argument. And both of them said what needed to be said. He was like, so it was cool, you got to leave. I had to stay there and live through it, and I got shot. And he was like, okay, I'm sorry. Like, I didn't ask to leave, and I'm sorry that I left. He was like, but, don't forget, like, I got in trouble because I was trying to save you from getting jumped. Like, I got a gun charge, and whose gun was it? It wasn't even my gun. And he was like, yeah, but remember, we weren't even supposed to be there that day. Like, you let, old boy get you all in your feelings and punk you, and then you felt like you had something to prove. If I told you not to go to the damn park to begin with and let it go. So both of them are sort of saying what has gone unspoken up until this point about whose fault this whole situation was. But it needed to be said, and basically they end up getting into an altercation. Trey pushes Will pushes Trey back, and Will ends up on top of Trey, and he was getting ready to punch him, but then he stops himself, right? He stops himself, but he just tells him, just get the hell out of my room. Like, just get out of my room. And Trey does. So then we see Will going to Aunt Viv and basically telling her what happened, that they got into it, and that Trey wants to leave. And, of course, Aunt Viv was like, listen, I get it. Like, friends fight, are you sure? And he was like, yeah, I think this was different. This is deeper. Like, this not just friends fighting. He said, me and Trey, we've been boys since my dad left. And they keep bringing up his dad. I know it may not be till next season. I'm not sure if they setting us up for next season or if it's going to be something in the next couple of episodes. But they definitely are making sure that they're keeping that in our head about Will and his dad. But he said, me and Trey been friends since my dad left, And so Aunt Viv, she definitely, was there for him and understood where he was coming from. But ultimately, she agrees to, if he wants to leave early, I mean, what you gonna do? Hold him hostage, So while this is going on, Ashley actually has a conversation with Hillary. And Ashley lets Hillary know that she has a crush on somebody. And Hillary was like, well, what's their name? And she says Isabella, whatever the girl name is, child. So, of course, Hillary knows that it's a girl. And she doesn't flinch. She says, okay, well, tell me about her. And Ashley does. Ashley tells her about her. She said, are you surprised? And Hillary was like, well, I mean, you're still, you're 12, so I'm kind of surprised you're interested in anybody, but what, you being gay? No, I mean, it is what it is. And she said, but see, that's just it. I don't know if I'm gay. Like, yes, I'm attracted to her, but I don't want to rule out the idea of being attracted to a man. And I don't want to talk to mom and dad about it because I don't want them to feel like it's a phase. And Hillary was like, well, first of all, you don't really need to have a conversation with mom and dad about it. Like, you don't. Like, it's your business and you are still figuring it out. You don't owe anybody that. She was like, and two, just because I'm not going to be in the house doesn't mean I won't be around. So, like, I'm glad that you felt comfortable enough to come and talk to me. And you can always come and talk to me, And I'm going to be around. Like, I'm going to always be around. So, we find out Uncle Phil, the campaign manager, comes to see Uncle Phil, and he was like, you know, you are the buzz of the town. And Uncle Phil was like, good or bad? He said both. He said good. He showed him the video clip of when he was talking to Kylo and talking about Hillary and how much he was proud of her, how much he loved Hillary. And then bad, he showed an attack ad, basically, you know, talking about how he wants to defund the police, and you know how they turned it into something horrible, and he believes in anarchy or something like that. And so of course Uncle Phil is like, damn, like, you know, they turned to me trying to make it seem like I'm with Antifa or something. And Steve was like, well, that's why I was telling you that we wanted to stay in the middle of the road. He said this might cost us some donors. And Uncle Phil was like, well, it's a good thing I'm rich. Good thing I'm rich, bitch. So while this is going on, Hillary and Aunt Viv have a really good conversation. And Aunt Viv finally says the one thing that Hillary has been wanting her to say, which is, I am proud of you. And that was just pretty much it. I mean, once she told Hillary she was proud of her, they had their moment. It was a hug. Great, great, great. So Trey is outside waiting for his Uber because he is leaving like tonight. Like they must have got him on the red eye, honey. But he is leaving and he is waiting for his Uber. And Will tries to talk to him and tell him, listen, you don't have to leave. And he was like, nah, I do. And he was like, you know, just because I might not be coming back to Philly doesn't mean that I'm abandoning you. And he was like, nah, you are. Like, Trey wasn't trying to hear none of that. And Will was like, I just realized that life was bigger than West Philly. And he was like, but not for me, it's not. And they both got tears in their eyes. And Trey got in the car and the car rolled off. So then we see him calling his mom. And telling his mom that he wants to stay in LA. And you could tell she's not happy about it. He said, well, you always told me that my crown was waiting for me. I just had to go get it. She said, yeah, I did. He said, well, I'm ready to get my crown. And he said, I've realized that Philly is bigger than 14 miles, you know, which is the exact conversation she had with him in the first episode. So her words are sort of coming back to bite her in the butt a little bit. But that's where the episode ends. So I think it was another great episode. I told y'all I'm all in. Y'all let me know what y'all think. Drop it in the comments. Peace.